Social bullies broke her laptop, but she hacked their phones the same day. Maya Rodriguez had always been invisible at Westfield High School, and that's exactly how she preferred it. At 16, she was small for her age, barely 5 feet tall with thick-rimmed glasses that seemed too big for her delicate face. Her dark hair was perpetually pulled back in a messy ponytail, and she dressed in oversized hoodies that made her look even smaller than she already was. She kept her head down in the hallways, clutched her worn laptop bag like a shield, and spoke only when absolutely necessary. What nobody at Westfield knew was that Maya Rodriguez was a digital ghost who could slip through firewalls like smoke, through cracks. She had been coding since she was 8 years old, taught herself multiple programming languages, and had already earned thousands of dollars through freelance cybersecurity work under various pseudonyms. Her bedroom was a high-tech fortress filled with multiple monitors, custom-built computers, and equipment that would make professional hackers jealous. But at school, she was just the quiet girl who sat alone at lunch, always typing on her laptop. Maya had transferred to Westfield 3 months ago when her mother got a new job across town. Starting over as a junior was hard enough, but Maya's naturally shy personality made it even more difficult to make friends. She preferred the company of her computers anyway. They were predictable, logical, and never cruel for the sake of being cruel. The trouble started on a Tuesday morning in October. Maya was walking down the main hallway toward her first period computer science class when she accidentally bumped into someone while checking her phone for an urgent client message. That someone turned out to be Brittany Walsh, Westfield's self-appointed Queen Bee. "Watch where you're going, freak," Brittany snapped, her perfectly styled blonde hair whipping as she turned to face Maya. At 17, Brittany was everything Maya wasn't. Tall, confident, popular, and mean. She had the kind of cruel beauty that made other students either worship her or fear her, sometimes both. "Sorry," Maya mumbled, adjusting her glasses and trying to step around Brittany. But Brittany wasn't done. She looked Maya up and down with obvious disgust. "God, what are you even wearing? Did you get dressed in the dark?" Her 2 loyal followers, Jessica Martinez and Chloe Davidson, giggled on cue. Jessica was Brittany's second in command, equally beautiful but twice as vicious. Chloe was the follower, desperate to maintain her position in their toxic hierarchy. Maya felt her cheeks burn with embarrassment, but she said nothing. She had learned long ago that responding only made things worse. She tried to walk away, but Brittany stepped directly into her path. "I'm talking to you," Brittany said, her voice dripping with fake sweetness. "It's rude to walk away when someone's talking to you." "I said sorry," Maya repeated quietly, clutching her laptop bag tighter. "Sorry doesn't fix how pathetic you look," Jessica chimed in, earning another round of giggles from Chloe. Maya finally managed to sidestep them and hurried to her classroom, her heart pounding. She told herself it was just a random encounter, that they would forget about her by lunch. She was wrong. Over the next few weeks, the encounters became regular occurrences. Brittany and her crew seemed to have developed a sixth sense for finding Maya at her most vulnerable moments. They would accidentally bump into her in the hallways, causing her to drop her books. They would make loud comments about her appearance when she passed their table in the cafeteria. They would whisper and point when she walked by, just loud enough for her to hear words like weird, loser, and freak. Maya tried to adapt. She changed her routes through the school, ate lunch in the library instead of the cafeteria, and arrived to classes at the last possible second to avoid lingering in hallways. But somehow they always found her. The worst part wasn't even the direct confrontations, it was the way other students looked at her afterward. Some looked away uncomfortably, not wanting to get involved. Others stared with a mixture of pity and relief that they weren't the target. A few even seemed to enjoy the show, their entertainment coming at Maya's expense. "Why me?" Maya thought as she sat alone in the library during lunch, picking at a sandwich she had no appetite for. "What did I ever do to them?" She knew the answer, of course. She hadn't done anything, that was the point. Bullies like Brittany didn't need a reason, they just needed a target, and Maya was perfect. She was small, quiet, friendless, and unlikely to fight back. She was also different, which in high school was often considered a crime worthy of social execution. Maya had the skills to make their lives very difficult if she wanted to. She could hack their social media accounts, crash their phones, or expose embarrassing information, but she had principles. Her mentor, a former black hat hacker who had gone legitimate, had drilled into her that using her abilities to hurt people made her no better than the criminals she helped catch. So she suffered in silence, telling herself it would eventually stop. It didn't stop. If anything, it got worse. The escalation happened on a Thursday afternoon in November. Maya was in the computer lab after school, working on a particularly challenging security project for a client, when Brittany and her crew walked in. Maya's heart sank. She had thought she was safe in the mostly empty building. "Look what we have here," Brittany announced, her voice echoing in the quiet room. "It's the little computer nerd, all alone with her precious toys." Maya quickly saved her work and started packing up her laptop, but Jessica was faster. She snatched Maya's laptop bag right out of her hands. "What's so important on here anyway?" Jessica asked, holding the bag just out of Maya's reach. "Homework? Love letters to boys who don't know you exist? Please give it back," Maya said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I have important work on there." "Important work?" Brittany laughed mockingly. "What could possibly be important about anything you do?" Chloe grabbed Maya's phone from the desk where she had left it charging. "Maybe she's catfishing someone online," she suggested, pretending to be someone pretty. Maya felt panic rising in her chest. Her laptop contained client files worth thousands of dollars, code she had spent months perfecting, and personal projects that represented years of work. Her phone had two-factor authentication for multiple high-security accounts. If either device was damaged or compromised, it would be catastrophic. "Please," Maya said again, reaching for her laptop bag. "I need those back." "You need to learn some respect first," Brittany said coldly. She nodded to Jessica, who promptly unzipped Maya's laptop bag and dumped its contents onto the floor. Maya's laptop, external hard drives, cables, and notebooks scattered across the linoleum. Maya dropped to her knees to gather her equipment, checking frantically for damage. Her laptop seemed okay, but one of her external drives had a crack in the casing. Years of backup files might be corrupted. "Oops," Jessica said with mock innocence. "Butterfingers." Maya carefully picked up each item, her hands shaking with a combination of fear and rage. She could feel the three girls watching, her enjoying her distress like vultures circling roadkill. "This is so pathetic," Chloe commented. "She cares more about her stupid computer than she does about having actual friends." "That's because her computer is probably the only thing that doesn't run away when it sees her face," Brittany added, causing her followers to burst into cruel laughter. Maya finished gathering her things and stood up slowly, clutching her laptop bag protectively against her chest. She looked at the three girls, memorizing their faces, their expressions of satisfied cruelty. Something cold and calculating settled in her chest. "Are you going to cry?" Jessica taunted. "Come on, give us some tears. We want to see if you're actually human under all that weirdness." Maya didn't cry. Instead, she looked directly at Brittany for the first time since this whole nightmare had started. "You don't know anything about me," she said quietly. Brittany raised an eyebrow, surprised by Maya's sudden eye contact. "I know enough. I know you're a pathetic little nobody who doesn't belong here." Maya held her gaze for a long moment, then turned and walked out of the computer lab without another word. Behind her, she could hear their laughter following her down the hallway like poisonous smoke. That night, Maya sat in her bedroom surrounded by her true environment, multiple glowing monitors, mechanical keyboards, and the quiet hum of powerful processors. She examined her damaged external drive under a magnifying lamp. The crack had indeed corrupted some files, including a backup of a project she had been working on for 6 months. They have no idea what they've done, Maya thought, as she connected the drive to a data recovery system. They think this is all just a game. She spent hours recovering what she could from the damaged drive, her anger growing with each corrupted file she discovered. These weren't just random documents. They represented her passion, her talent, her future. Every lost line of code felt like a small piece of herself being erased. As she worked, Maya found herself thinking about her mentor's words about using her abilities responsibly. She still believed in those principles, but she was beginning to understand that sometimes principles had to be balanced against justice. There was a difference between using her skills to hurt innocent people and using them to defend herself against bullies who had already hurt her. "They want to play games?" Maya thought, as she opened a new terminal window. "Let me show them what real games look like." The next morning, Maya arrived at school with a different energy. She still looked the same, small, quiet, unremarkable, but something had changed in her eyes. When she passed Brittany's group in the hallway, she didn't look down or try to avoid them. Instead, she made brief eye contact with each of them, just long enough to let them know she saw them, really saw them. Brittany noticed the change immediately. "What are you looking at, freak?" she snapped, but Maya had already moved on, walking with a purpose that hadn't been there before. During lunch, Maya sat in her usual spot in the library, but instead of eating, she was focused intently on her laptop screen. Her fingers moved across the keyboard with practiced precision, lines of code flowing like poetry. She wasn't just angry anymore, she was methodical, calculating, patient. Information warfare, she thought as she worked. Know your enemy better than they know themselves. Maya had spent the morning doing reconnaissance. She had already identified the social media accounts, email addresses, and phone numbers of all three girls. She had mapped their digital footprints, identified their security vulnerabilities, and begun to understand their online behaviors and habits. Brittany, she discovered, was incredibly careless with her digital security. She used the same password for multiple accounts, connected to unsecured Wi-Fi networks, and had location services enabled on all her social media posts. Jessica was slightly more careful, but she had a tendency to click on suspicious links and download questionable apps. Chloe was the most security-conscious of the three, but she was also the most addicted to social media, posting dozens of times per day across multiple platforms. Amateur hour, Maya thought with grim satisfaction. They're about to learn why. Cybersecurity matters. The lesson began that very afternoon. Maya waited until the final bell rang and most students had left the building. She positioned herself in the library where she had a clear view of the main hallway and activated a small device she had built herself, a portable Wi-Fi pineapple that could intercept wireless communications within a 100-foot radius. Right. On schedule, Brittany, Jessica, and Chloe walked by, all three glued to their phones as usual. Maya watched her laptop screen as their devices automatically connected to her fake Wi-Fi network, thinking they were connecting to the school's legitimate network. Within minutes, Maya had intercepted their passwords, browsing history, and active session cookies. She now had access to their social media accounts, email, and cloud storage. But instead of doing anything dramatic, she simply observed, gathering intelligence like a digital detective building a case. What she found was exactly what she expected, and worse than she had imagined. Brittany's private messages revealed a level of cruelty that went far beyond what Maya had experienced personally. She had orchestrated bullying campaigns against at least 6 other students over the past 2 years, sharing humiliating photos, starting malicious rumors, and organizing group harassment, both online and offline. Her messages showed no remorse, only amusement at her victims' pain. Jessica's communications were filled with racist and homophobic slurs, crude jokes about other students' appearances, and detailed plans for future bullying activities. She had even created fake social media accounts, specifically for the purpose of anonymously harassing her targets. Chloe's files contained something even more disturbing, photos and videos of their bullying incidents, carefully curated like trophies. She had been documenting their cruelty, saving screenshots of crying victims, and creating highlight reels of their most effective harassment techniques. Maya stared at her screen in disbelief. She had expected typical mean girl behavior, but this was systematic psychological warfare conducted by teenagers who seemed to genuinely enjoy causing pain. They're not just bullies, she realized. They're sociopaths. That night, Maya sat in her room planning her response. She could expose everything she had found, the racist messages, the evidence of systematic harassment, the trophy photos of crying victims. She could send it all to their parents, the school administration, and even the local news. It would destroy their reputations and possibly get them expelled. But Maya wanted something more personal, more immediate. She wanted them to feel the same helplessness and humiliation they had inflicted on her and countless others. They think technology is just a toy, Maya thought as she wrote her first script. Time to show them what happens when toys fight back. Monday morning arrived grey and drizzly, matching Maya's mood as she prepared for what she privately called Operation Digital Justice. She had spent the weekend perfecting her code, testing her exploits, and preparing for every possible scenario. She arrived at school early and positioned herself in the computer lab with a clear view of the hallway. Her laptop was loaded with custom software that would execute her plan with military precision. All she needed was the right moment. That moment came during lunch period. Maya watched through the lab's windows as Brittany, Jessica, and Chloe settled at their usual table in the cafeteria, surrounded by their usual audience of admirers and wannabes. They were laughing about something, probably at someone else's expense. Maya opened her laptop and began typing. The first phase was subtle. She activated a script that would gradually slow down their phone's performance, making apps crash and web pages load slowly. To them, it would seem like typical phone glitches, annoying but not immediately suspicious. Phase 2 was more noticeable. Maya triggered a series of accidental social media posts from their accounts, embarrassing autocorrect fails, double posts and likes on photos they would never normally engage with. The posts were designed to look like typical smartphone mishaps, the kind that happened to everyone. By the time lunch period was half over, all three girls were staring at their phones with expressions of growing frustration and confusion. "Why is my phone being so weird today?" Jessica complained loudly enough for Maya to hear through the open cafeteria doors. "Mine too," Chloe added. "It keeps doing stuff I didn't tell it to do." Brittany was frantically trying to delete posts from her Instagram feed. "This is so embarrassing. It posted that weird photo of me eating lunch like 6 times. Maya allowed herself a small smile. As she initiated Phase 3, suddenly all three phones began playing music at maximum volume, but not just any music. Maya had carefully selected the most embarrassing songs from their private playlists, the guilty pleasure tracks they would never want anyone to know they listened to. Brittany's phone was blasting a children's song from a Disney movie. Jessica's was playing country music, despite her public hatred of the genre, and Chloe's was broadcasting a love ballad she had apparently played on repeat for hours at a time. The entire cafeteria turned to stare as the three girls frantically tried to stop the music. They pressed buttons, covered speakers, and even tried turning their phones off, but nothing worked. Maya's malware had disabled their normal controls and would continue playing until the battery died or until she decided to stop it. "Make it stop," Brittany shrieked, her face red with embarrassment as her phone continued broadcasting "Let It Go" at ear-splitting volume. Students began pulling out their own phones to record the spectacle. Maya watched with satisfaction as the three bullies experienced the same kind of public humiliation they had inflicted on others countless times. But she wasn't done yet. Phase 4 activated automatically after 5 minutes of musical chaos. Maya had programmed their phones to display a custom message that would appear on their screens in large, bold letters. "Karma has an IP address." The message couldn't be dismissed or cleared. It would remain on their screens for exactly 1 hour, making their phones completely unusable while broadcasting Maya's calling card to anyone who looked. As the girls stared at their hijacked devices in shock and horror, Maya quietly packed up her laptop and slipped out of the computer lab. She wanted to be present for the final phase of her operation. She found them in the hallway outside the cafeteria, surrounded by curious students who were still filming and laughing. All three girls looked like they were on the verge of tears, the same expression Maya had seen on the faces of their victims so many times before. "This isn't possible," Jessica was saying, shaking her phone as if that would fix it. "Phones don't just do this by themselves." "Someone did this to us," Brittany said, her voice shaking with rage and fear. "Someone hacked our phones." Chloe looked around suspiciously at the crowd of students. "But who? Who even knows how to do stuff like this?" Maya stepped forward, moving through the crowd until she was standing directly in front of the three girls. For the first time since she had started at Westfield High, she felt tall. "You wanted to know what was so important on my laptop," Maya said quietly, her voice cutting through the noise of the crowd. "Now you know." The three girls stared at her in shock, their hijacked phones still displaying her message. "You," Brittany whispered. "You did this, but you're just what?" Maya asked, raising an eyebrow. "Just a pathetic little nobody who doesn't belong here. Just a freak with a computer." Jessica took a step back, suddenly looking very small despite being nearly a foot taller than Maya. "This is illegal. You can't just hack people's phones." Maya smiled coldly. "You're right. Hacking is illegal. So is harassment, cyberbullying, and creating hostile educational environments. But I guess you didn't think about that when you were building your little trophy collection of victims." Chloe's face went white. "What are you talking about?" "Oh, I know all about your photos and videos," Maya said conversationally. "I know about the fake social media accounts, the coordinated harassment campaigns, the racist messages. I know about all of it." The crowd around them had gone silent, students straining to hear every word of the conversation. Maya could see phones recording from multiple angles, capturing this moment for posterity. "You have no idea who you've been messing with," Maya continued, her voice gaining strength with each word. "You thought I was just some weird girl with a computer. You had no idea that weird girl with a computer has been earning more money from cybersecurity work than your parents make in a year. You had no idea that I've helped catch actual criminals, stopped real cyber attacks, and built systems that protect thousands of people." Brittany tried to regain her composure, drawing herself up to her full height. "So what? You're still a freak. You still don't have any friends. You still..." I still what? Maya interrupted. I still let you walk all over me? I still pretend that your opinion matters? I still care what you think about me. She pulled out a tablet and showed them the screen. It displayed a folder containing hundreds of screenshots, photos, and message logs, all the evidence she had gathered about their bullying activities. You see, while you were playing your little high school power games, I was documenting everything. Every cruel message, every harassment campaign, every victim you've targeted. I have evidence going back 2 years, all logged, dated, and ready to present to school administration, your parents, and if necessary, law enforcement. The three girls stared at the tablet screen in horror, recognizing their own messages and photos. But here's the thing, Maya continued, her voice now carrying the authority of someone who had finally claimed her power. I don't actually want to destroy your lives. I'm not like you. I don't enjoy causing pain for the sake of causing pain. She paused, letting that sink in. What I want is for this to stop. Not just for me, but for everyone. I want you to understand that actions have consequences, that your victims are real people with real feelings, and that the technology you use so carelessly can be turned against you just as easily as you've used it against others. Maya closed the tablet and looked each of them in the eye. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to stop bullying people, all people. You're going to delete your trophy collections and your fake accounts. You're going to apologize to the people you've hurt. And you're going to remember that the quiet kid in the corner might know things you can't even imagine. And if we don't, Brittany asked, though her voice lacked its usual venom. Maya smiled. Then I'll show you what a real hack looks like. What you saw today was me being nice. You really don't want to see what happens when I stop being nice. She turned to address the crowd of students who had been watching the confrontation. And all of you who just stood by and watched while people got bullied, you're part of the problem too. But today, you've seen that victims can fight back. Maybe next time you'll choose to help instead of just watching. Maya walked away, leaving the three girls standing in the hallway with their broken phones and shattered reputations. Behind her, she could hear the excited chatter of students discussing what they had just witnessed. Over the following weeks, the dynamic at Westfield High School shifted dramatically. The video of Maya's confrontation with the bullies had spread across social media, turning her into something of a legend. Students who had never spoken to her before began approaching her with respectful nods and genuine smiles. Brittany, Jessica, and Chloe found themselves on the receiving end of the social isolation they had inflicted on others. Their former admirers distanced themselves, not wanting to be associated with their exposed cruelty. They ate lunch alone, walked the hallways without their usual entourage, and experienced the loneliness their victims had endured. True to their agreement, they had stopped their bullying activities entirely. Maya's monitoring software, which she kept running for several more weeks, showed no new harassment from any of them. They had even reached out to some of their former victims with apologies, though Maya suspected this was more about self-preservation than genuine remorse. Maya herself had experienced the most dramatic transformation of all. She still preferred the company of her computers to crowds of people, but she no longer felt the need to hide. She joined the school's computer club, started tutoring other students in programming, and even began dating a fellow tech enthusiast who appreciated both her skills and her quiet strength. Most importantly, she had become a symbol of hope for other students who felt powerless against bullies. Several underclassmen had approached her for advice on dealing with harassment, and Maya had started an informal support network for victims of bullying, teaching them both practical coping strategies and basic digital self-defense. One afternoon, about a month after the confrontation, Maya was in the computer lab working on a new project when Brittany appeared in the doorway. She looked different, smaller somehow, less confident, more human. "Can I talk to you?" Brittany asked quietly. Maya looked up from her screen. "What do you want?" Brittany stepped into the room and closed the door behind her. "I wanted to apologize. Really apologize, not just because I'm scared of what you might do to me." Maya saved her work and turned to face her former tormentor. "I'm listening. I've been thinking about what you said," Brittany continued, her voice barely above a whisper, "about how our victims are real people with real feelings. I guess I never really thought about it that way before. I mean, I knew it intellectually, but I didn't really understand what that meant." She sat down in a chair across from Maya, her usual perfect posture replaced by a slouched, defeated position. "I've been seeing a therapist," Brittany admitted. "My parents made me start after they saw the video and realized what I had been doing, and she's been helping me understand why I felt like I needed to hurt other people to feel good about myself." Maya nodded but said nothing, waiting for Brittany to continue. "I know this doesn't excuse anything I did," Brittany said, "and I know saying sorry doesn't undo the damage, but I want you to know that I'm trying to be better. I'm trying to understand why I was so cruel, and I'm working on changing." "That's good," Maya said simply. "Change is hard, but it's possible." Brittany looked up with surprise. "You're not going to lecture me or tell me I'm terrible?" Maya shook her head. "You already know what you did was wrong. You're trying to fix it. That's more than a lot of people do." They sat in silence for a moment, the weight of their shared history hanging between them. "Can I ask you something?" Brittany said finally. "Sure. How did you know you could do all that stuff with our phones? How did you know you had that power?" Maya considered the question carefully. "I think everyone has power they don't know about. Mine happens to be with computers, but other people have different kinds of strength. The trick is figuring out what yours is and learning how to use it responsibly." "I thought my power was making other people afraid of me," Brittany said quietly. "But that wasn't really power at all, was it? It was just emptiness pretending to be strength." "Real power doesn't come from making other people smaller," Maya agreed. "It comes from making yourself bigger, not in a selfish way, but in a way that creates space for other people to be bigger too." Brittany nodded slowly, as if she was finally beginning to understand something that had eluded her for years. "Thank you," she said, as she stood to leave, "for stopping me before I hurt even more people, and for showing me that there's a difference between being feared and being respected." After Brittany left, Maya returned to her coding, but her mind kept drifting to their conversation. She thought about power, how it could be used to destroy or to protect, to diminish others or to lift them up. She thought about the responsibility that came with having skills that others lacked, and the importance of using those skills ethically. With great power comes great responsibility, she thought, smiling at the cliché. But some clichés are true. As the school year progressed, Maya continued to grow into her role as both a guardian and a guide for her fellow students. She used her technical skills to help victims of cyberbullying secure their accounts and protect their privacy. She worked with teachers and administrators to develop better policies for addressing online harassment. And she never forgot the lesson she had learned during her own dark period, that sometimes the only way to stop a bully is to show them that their victims are not as powerless as they appear. The Mifi, girl who had once cowered in hallways and eaten lunch alone, had discovered something invaluable, her own strength. And in finding that strength, she had created a space for others to find theirs as well. Maya Rodriguez was no longer invisible. She had learned to be seen, to be heard, and most importantly, to be respected. The bullies had picked the wrong target, and in doing so, they had awakened something in Maya that would serve her for the rest of her life. The knowledge that she had the power to stand up for herself and others, and the wisdom to use that power responsibly. In the end, the greatest victory wasn't the dramatic confrontation or the public humiliation of her tormentors. It was the quiet confidence she carried with her every day, the knowledge that she would never again allow anyone to make her feel small or powerless. She had found her voice in the digital realm, and that voice had taught her how to speak up in the real world as well. The bullies had wanted to break her, but instead, they had forged her into something stronger than they could have ever imagined.